Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, college football fans across the nation and around the world. This is Tim May with the Tim May Podcast. Yes, another Tim May podcast. I'm really looking forward to this one, though, because I look forward to all of them. So I didn't mean to leave that hanging right there. But I have a conversation with Doug Calland, the head athletic trainer for Ohio State University Athletics, in this episode. And it just struck me with all the things that we've seen happen on the field. Concerning athletes, concerning football players over the last month or so, from Damar Hamlin to the young man with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to we saw what happened with Marvin Harrison Jr. in the Ohio State narrow 42-41 loss to Georgia at the end of the third quarter, and Marvin Harrison Jr. got hit in the head and had to leave the game. Really, really a moment that changed college football history, at least for this past season. And then, of course, Cade Stover in that game. Doug Calland is in essence the spearhead of the group that goes on the field and attends to players, Ohio State football players, when they get hurt. By spearheads, I mean he's the one that helps organize it. He's not necessarily the first one there, or sometimes not even on the field. But he was the first one there to Marvin Harrison Jr. when Marvin Harrison Jr. went down in the back of the end zone after suffering, in essence, a head hit that took him out of the game. So I wanted to just touch bases with him and this marvelous group of people, almost unsung, that respond at a second's notice to what amounts to a car wreck in the middle of a football field. And I've always argued that if you're ever going to have something happen to you, as in the case of Damar Hamlin, if you're ever going to have something happen to you physically where your well-being could be in doubt, we're better than in the middle of a major college football field or an NFL field where there are so many professional talents who come to your aid and rescue in literally seconds. And such has been the case with Doug Calland ever since, he graduated from Ohio State in 1981, got a graduate degree from Oklahoma State, worked for a while at Oklahoma State, worked for quite a bit at University of Washington, before coming back home to Ohio State in 1995, replacing the venerable and the late Billy Hill, one of my favorite people of all time. But Doug Calland has ascended from basically being one of the guys looking after Ohio State football from a training sense to now being the overseer of the training staff for all Ohio State athletics. And so we get into it. I get into a nice conversation with him and about the talents that come to bear for Ohio State football players when something major goes down, whether it be in practice, whether it be in off-season workouts, et cetera. It's in essence, they get the best care possible. I'm talking about guys like Sean Barnhouse, the head of the football training staff, and Adam Stewart, world-renowned member of that staff also. And then, Dr. Chris Kading, who's been around for a while, the chief physician for the Ohio State football program. But he just heads up a group of phalanx of physicians of almost every specialty you can think of. Now it's not just one doctor attending to these guys. They have all kinds of specialists. So without further ado, let's get to my conversation with Doug Calland, a man I came to respect quickly when he showed up at Ohio State, and that respect has endured for sure. Hey, Doug Calland, thanks for joining the Tim May Podcast, man.
You bet. Thanks for having me, Tim.
Long time since we've hooked up. And, I literally wanted to get into this with you because a lot of things have happened in the postseason and in the postseason for college football, but also postseason for the National Football League, which brought to mind just you and your group. Basically, I know there are doctors involved and trainers and managers and everything else involved, but I always saw you as sort of the spearhead of that group for Ohio State football, Ohio State athletics, but Ohio State football in particular, about responding to wrecks, car wrecks on the field and stuff. And the reason I wanted to get into this with you is because obviously Damar Hamlin and the young man for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers who got hit, a wide receiver, got hit near the end of that game and had some kind of paralysis going on in in his midsection, couldn't get up. I mean, but what I want to get into here is the plethora of people who suddenly are tending to these guys in the middle of a football field with millions of people watching on television, etc. And the reason I wanted to get to you is when Marvin Harrison Jr., and I'm going to call it this, you don't need to call it this, got that dirty hit in the back of the end zone against Georgia. In my opinion, the play that changed Ohio State's football fortunes for that night and helped Georgia's football fortunes, because Marvin Harrison Jr. was not able to return to the game because of what Ryan Day basically confirmed to us was concussion protocol, or y'all had questions about. You were the very first person to the site from the support standpoint, medical standpoint, of getting to him when he went down in the back of that end zone. And then suddenly you were joined by 2, 3, 4, 5, Sean Barnhouse, all these guys. And number one, the reason I'm getting into this is just the amount of people that are involved in the welfare and seeing to the welfare of football players on a major college and NFL level is staggering sometimes when you really take into account the degrees that are involved there, the medical degrees, the training degrees, etc. And what I wanted to ask you is, number one, I want to get into the organization of that. But number one, you run out there and you're the first guy on the scene of Marvin Harrison Jr. getting hit in the head,
Right.
and not getting up immediately. What are you thinking as you're running out there and as you get to it?
Yep. Good question, and that's changed over the years. Basically, the amount of people that are involved. We've athletic trainers and physicians are attached at the hip. I can go back to Dr. Bob Murphy in the old days at Ohio State, and we've had the amount of professionals that have grown in the medical sports medicine field is just ridiculously crazy. I mean, it's so many more people now with, the sports dietitians, and we have, obviously physical therapists, athletic trainers. You have all those disciplines, even surgeons. We had Dr. Chris Kading, who's been our lead ortho for years. Used to do them all. Now we've got a hand guy, we got a foot guy, we got a shoulder guy. It's amazing how many people there. And you're right. For me to be out there now, I used to be able to be the quickest guy out there, but I don't know how I made it before Sean Barnhouse and Tyler Dean, and there are lead athletic trainers on the football side, Sean and Tyler, and then you have Solomon Campbell, Adam Stewart, who just what an awesome group, and that healthcare group is it's year round. Part of that is the emergency action plan and what do we do when somebody crashes. And for me, and I'll kind of digress a little bit, I usually do not go out. I'm the oldest guy out there now, so I support them in what they do. But for that one, I kind of overreacted a little bit because my lane is they go out and do it, and I sort of support as we go
whatever
forward.
They need.
Over the years, I used to be the guy out there, but now, so what I saw was when he got hit, and I did see the flag go down because I stepped on it as I walked over.
Yes, you did.
So I know there's a flag, but I noticed he got hit. I do believe he lost some consciousness at some point briefly because we're all watching the field for that. And on the way, I noticed some players trying to help him. And we try to tell our players, don't do that. But I'm like, okay, no, don't touch him, because you have to go through a process to make sure that you're not moving him, before you've checked things out. And so I'm running out there for that reason. Sean and Tyler are right behind me. And so when we got there, and again, we just start with the checks. It's, airway, breathing, go, and we know all that's there. We hope it's there, but sometimes you have to, do the, pull the AED out, and you got to start the airway and all that stuff. And knock on wood, that was not the case here. And that again with that situation, and we got him off the field, and with a concussion symptom like that. And we went through some checks.
Y'all went in the tent with him.
Went into the tent. We go down through our eval plan. We have all the doctors that are in there doing that. And to put him back in the game would have been a risk that is, we're we're here to win games, but we're here for the health and safety of those athletes first and foremost. We understand this is a tough game. We understand that there's risk, benefit. We make those decisions every day for practice, whether you can play with this hand fracture or you can play with this knee sprain, whatever.
Yeah.
But that one, it was a bad timing. It was a bad situation, but we couldn't have safely put him back into the field, because if he got another hit, if he took another shot, that's when bad things happen.
Yeah.
And that's why there are, really concussions. The only medical condition that has legislative actions you have to do. We don't have a broken leg policy. We have concussion policies, and we have those in place for a reason, because I think from top to bottom, you have to follow those for that reason, to be safe with.
Yeah, and like you just said, there's a list of people involved that are involved in reacting, showing up in the middle of the field there sometimes, working for the welfare of the player, etc. Who when you go in that tent there, who would have been involved in the tent just examining him? I mean, throw some names out there, your team doctors, etc.
Well, initially you have, like I said, Sean Barnhouse, Tyler Deem, and Solomon, and
Adam
Stewie, and Allie, and all of them that do a great job. But our team physicians, with Dr. Chris Kading, is our head team physician. You got Bryant Walrod, who's really on the primary care side. He's our lead physician on the primary care side. Ryan Rock, and then Dave Flanagan are two of our other orthopedic support guys. So it depends on the injury. If it's a knee sprain or a shoulder sprain, one of the ortho guys is going to take the lead. If it's a concussion or any other situation, it's probably Dr. Walrod, who is going to review his symptoms and go through the checklist of evaluating, what do we got here? And so that's kind of, and then we have Sean and Tyler, one of them's going there with them and kind of making sure that all the information is, we're on the same page here. We did utilize, we really don't do it very much, we did utilize the replay on this one. A lot of times it's, DVD sports, you have that, you can look at the injury, and the independent medical spotter has that ability to do that as well. But we really don't need to, because we can assess, can they run or jump and stuff with most injuries. But this one we had to go back and look a little bit, because we wanted to see, let's see what this looked like initially, and we did that to help us.
Do you, at road games, at home games, do y'all supply the eye in the sky? I mean, the person in the press box, et cetera, that's eyeballing? I mean, how does it work on the college level? I know the NFL, it's a different.
Yeah,
they have like 7 or 8 people. Seems like looking, sitting there. But
it seems like, we have the Big Ten Conference, and they provide, at all Big Ten games, they provide an independent medical spotter that's hired by the Big Ten that does provide for both teams. If it's outside the conference, we have communications with them. They're there for you if you want. We're still going to call you to help you, but it's your choice if you want to do that. If you're a Notre Dame or somebody
like outside. At the Peach Bowl, was that a Big Ten provided person?
Nope, that's a bowl. That was a bowl provided person that would still operate the same way, just to call down and say, hey, here's what we saw, and whatever. The interesting thing about football is we have so many eyes on the field. Again, another eye is helpful. I understand that's what we need. But you've got, like I said, we have 3 or 4 physicians. We have athletic trainers and coaches and staff. Everybody's watching the same thing. So rarely, it's possible we could miss some things. Sometimes on TV you can get close-ups of stuff that we don't see. But a lot of times, we're pretty on it. On what we got.
And how does this work? I mean, from the standpoint of all of you guys, y'all are a team here at Ohio State, so y'all almost practice this daily, especially during the season with practices going on, etc. But before a big game, like for example that Peach Bowl against Georgia, do y'all have like a pregame meeting where you make sure, even though y'all have done it a million times, you make sure everybody is on their correct page? You're all in the same book, but you're on your correct page of this is your responsibility, etc. How does that work? I mean, how long does that last, I guess?
Yes, the practice, the preparation, the assignments, they've all been done. We know exactly what we're going to do and who's going to do it when it's time to get the golf cart, get the vacuum splints, whatever the situation is. We're gonna signal for a certain doctor in certain situations. Nobody likes to see 15 people running out for every injury. We don't need to do that. Most of the time, we can actually assist the player back on the field, and if it's a roll up an ankle, we can evaluate that and make some decisions quickly.
Yeah.
On the other hand, some things are worse, and we got to kind of deal with what we see and kind of go through the checklist. But everybody's got their assignment and what we do, and so we're all rehearsed. But each place has their own kind of emergency action plan, so to speak. You have to go over that. We meet with the other team's medical staff, probably during warm-ups is about the time. We actually had a meeting last night at the end of our season with all of our medical staff. We talked through the whole season that we just had, and what can we do differently? What if we do moving forward? And so
scenarios.
Yeah, we do it. We did that. We covered the whole season last night for a few hours.
Wow.
So we because it helps us move forward on what did we do differently? What should we have done in this situation? When this person went down, and we talk through those things. But when it's time for game times, we have conversation with the visiting team. At a bowl game, it's sort of a neutral site, so we have bowl people that help us with whether they have a golf cart and where's the EMS located, and all of those kind of things. We have to know that before the game starts, so we're prepared when and if.
Yeah, and you talk about touching a lot of those buttons. That Peach Bowl, Cade Stover gets flipped. He tries to hurdle a guy, gets flipped. Ohio State's tight end lands on his butt, and you know how tough Cade Stover is. He walks off on his own, but you see him holding his left hip, and you're going, well, that's not good because this is one of the toughest guys and he's got a. And then the next thing you know, he's being transported to a local hospital because you want to kind of run through that. I mean, because obviously you have a player go to the hospital in the midst of a game. I mean, so it's never stopping, right, for you guys from a certain extent behind the scenes. You wish it would be nothing, but it's always that. I mean, that's a hell of a management thing to handle, isn't it? I mean, and when does the call come? Who makes that call that, hey, you know what, we need further evaluation on this? He's not responding correctly. Go ahead.
No, and that was Dr. Kading. We had him, he's on the sidelines, we were there for the hit, and he started having some progressively increasing back spasms. And we're like, okay, let's work through this. And we took him over to we did an X-ray that's in the stadium, and those are decent X-rays. They're not what you would get in a hospital, but we did some. And it's like, you know what? Something's not right here. He is having some pain and some problems that typically he's a tough dude. I mean, and so we're like, let's just, we're not going to take any chances, and we're going to pull the trigger on that. So, and we have EMS right there. Boom, we got him in the cart. I had to go out, try to get mom and dad to come down from the stands because we want to keep them in the loop. So we're trying to get them past the band, who's lining up to come down on the field. So it's not all easy, but we got them down there. Mom got on board on the rig, and then off they went. And he, I just saw him today. He's doing great. But you never know what it is. But if he's not able to, really mobilize and get up, let's check this out. I mean, we can't just assume it's something until we know, and that's kind of what we're all about. Yeah,
and here's what I want to get to too. It's like you guys are working for Ohio State. You're feeling the pressure, but it's a totally different pressure because you know how valuable Cade Stover is to the cause of beating Georgia. You definitely know how valuable Marvin Harrison Jr. is probably going to catch 40 passes. Now, you know what I'm saying. I'm being over the top, but what a night he was having. In one of the great games Ohio State's ever played offensively. Throw that in there, the offensively part. I won't get you to comment. But how big when he gets ruled out, y'all know how big a deal that is. And yet, how are y'all able to separate the objective from the subjective there, or from the raw data from the rah-rah? You know what I mean? Because you knew telling Ryan Day, look, Marvin's gone. Marvin's ruled out for the rest of the night. We've taken his helmet, whatever it was. How tough is that sometimes? Take me through that. I mean,
it's again, I'll go back in time. It probably was a little tougher back in, you say, when you and I first started.
Yeah.
Years ago. Coaches were a little bit different, a little more.
Well, concussions were you gave a guy smelling salts, he went back in the game.
Wave a couple fingers and you're back in.
Close enough. Get in there.
Right. So those were the protocols back then. Now they're completely different. But it starts, with really honestly Coach Day and all of our head coaches, but Coach Day in particular, 100% trust in our medical staff. 100%. Like we know that we've made decisions throughout the year that, hey, this guy can play with this, here's what, and we're very upfront with what we have and what we're dealing with. So he's got to be able to understand that we're not making that decision easily. But you got to have your thoughts of what's important here. Yes, we want to win this game, but we don't want to put him in a bad spot, and we want him to, to be in the safe. And most of coaches are in the same spot. They're frustrated. They got to adjust, and they weren't planning on this. For this to happen. Some things happen at worse times. Earlier in the game, and Kate Stover was out, so they have backup plans. They have plans that they have.
They don't like to go to that tertiary plan.
They go to let's go with the B squad, but they run the drill with that. So they're not immune to having plans just like we are. But when it happens, you have to you got to take care of the player. And that's what we have to do.
And here's what I'm getting to here is though, you've got an Ohio State a little sweater on right now, a zip, a quarter zip.
Quarter zip. It's a nice one too.
My point is, you understand, y'all all understand that when that call is made, y'all are fans too, I don't know, and I'm not impugning any kind of judgment one way or the other. It really goes to your professional training, your professional, what do you want to call it, reputation. You got to make this call, right? And it's tough, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
I mean, it's not tough in protecting a player. It's tough in knowing what kind of impact this is going to have on the rest of the game.
Right.
Yeah.
No.
I don't know if I was looking for more than a thing. But
it is.
But you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, it is. I look back over the years on things that have happened and making those decisions, and you just have to have enough, I don't want to call it experience, but just enough to be able to say, and it's not one person's decision. We have several physicians and athletic trainers, and let's all get on the same page here. What did you see, and what are we doing? And we kind of know where it's going, whether it's good, bad, indifferent. Because at the time, you're out there. In the other example, you're out on the field and you're evaluating, okay, is this one we're carting to the locker room? Is this one where we can walk to the sidelines? Is this one we're going to the medical tent? Is this one we're going to the EMS? What are we doing, and how bad are we? What are we dealing with out on the field? And so those decisions are made kind of, collectively as well, but briefly and quickly because we've rehearsed them. And then we get to the actual ultimate decision of, okay, are we going to, return this player to the game? And a lot of times, you safely can. You deal with the risk and the benefit of, I don't know, there's probably hand surgeons who would not like to see a player go back with a finger fracture. Because it's not best for the finger, to go back out there and hurt that. But the player's going to be like, I'm good. So you buddy tape them, you do some things to protect them best, and you understand that risk and the benefit. Some things you just have to make the call, and you say this is not something we're comfortable putting you back in the game, because we know what the worst thing that can happen is, and it can likely, you have to follow what.
Sure. Adrenaline can only take you so far.
Right. Well, and you know what, to put him back in the game and not know, you think back, what if, but if he took another shot in the head, which he probably could have, playing another quarter, that outcome isn't acceptable at all. So,
and he was basically fine the next day. I mean, y'all followed up.
He actually, he actually recovered pretty well. But I'll go back and say, with what he presented on the field, and I've seen worse. But his was a situation where it's like, okay, losing the consciousness briefly in the beginning, and where he was at, he was ready to go back in.
I'll put it to you.
But you know what? We actually steal his helmet, and we don't let him have it. So
I'll put it to you this way. Though I covered boxing a lot way back when, And matter of fact, heck, the Buster Douglas Mike Tyson fight in Tokyo, when Buster got knocked down in the 8th round, he was stunned, but he wasn't knocked out. He just lay. He sat there, and his dad taught him to sit there and get up at the count of like 7, but get that rest, in between whatever, to collect yourself. And then, of course, when he knocked Mike Tyson out in the 10th round, Mike Tyson was out, falling to the canvas. You could see it, et cetera. There was no doubt about it. And what bothered me, Marvin Harrison Jr. did not immediately get up. I mean, when he got knocked down, to me, that's like he would not have probably gotten up at the count of 10 from a boxing parlance, if you follow my drift. And of course, that means the fight is over. And that's what I look at those things as, and it's just interesting because you don't want a guy, like you said, in this modern age, you don't want willpower carrying him through. Just jumping real quick, though, of course, Evan Pryor gets hurt in an early practice this year in preseason, knee injury. And, of course, a very celebrated wide receiver. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, Jackson Smith-Njigba.
I do.
Suffered a hamstring injury in preseason camp, and suddenly that lingered. Tried to come back a couple of times. Evidently exacerbated his situation and ended up not playing for Ohio State again. My point is both of those happened in preseason practices, not on a field with 80,000 people there plus millions watching on television. But the medical response to those kind of things is exactly the same, isn't it?
Yes,
y'all's
it is.
group.
Absolutely.
I mean, in a strange way, y'all get practice about dealing with these things, but it's real.
Yeah. No, we have our injury list is pretty. By the end of the football season, everybody's got something. And I'm surprised, and I've come from a little old school where we used to put thigh pads and hip pads and tailbone pads and knee pads.
Well, knee pads were actually over the knees.
Right. I don't know what. I think we're putting biker shorts on these guys now. They're not wearing any pads. So how we don't have hip pointers and quad bruises anymore? We have. I don't know why they want to be faster, but at some point, what are we doing? So that part is. So you've got, and this is a tough game. These guys, you can play with some stuff. You got to sore this or sore that, and we evaluate them every week, if not every day, depends on, and the medical system, I don't want to call it anything else, that they have, they don't really realize how good they have the access to medical care that they have here when even I'll even throw Braxton Miller out there. He's been gone forever. He still calls me, hey, can I come by and see you this or that and this? So it's so, they can walk in here almost, we are 24/7. If they need something, they call us and we deal with them. And so they have access to all of this. And so every day they're training, they're working hard, they're lifting, they're running, they're practicing, and it never ends. And so we'll see them 3 or 4 times a day. And so when they come in, it's like, hey, Mike, this hurts, this kind of hurts, and we deal with it. And we run, let's see a doc on this. Pretty soon you have, and then elevated stuff. You got some stuff that's you gotta, maybe take some time off. They want to play, they want to compete, so got to make sure that they're ready to go. So we go through the steps to go back, and that happens. What do we got? 100-some players on our team.
Yeah.
It's like a lot.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Going on. So to have them get back into playing. It's not just a, flip a coin, let's see how you do. No, we have you start with, we got to run, you got to, get back, kind of a progression as well with whether it's an ankle sprain or anything. Yeah. And so those decisions, like you said, a lot of things happen in camp that can take you out for a long time. You can get hamstrings are notoriously. They're just
and they're all
so
different.
Frustrating because they're not all the same, and you feel like you're okay and you got everything's back, and then they come back and haunt you. Got it again.
Yeah.
So that was a very frustrating one for him and us as well. So, I wish it was different, but he's.
Well, we all remember the case of Marshawn Lattimore showed up here almost with a chronic hamstring situation. Finally, surgery solved it, but
Right.
it was during an off season,
Yeah.
where he had time to come back, et cetera. Now he's been playing in the National Football League for
Yeah.
below these many years. I mean, they're all like you said, they're all different. And we were, I know in the media we were getting all kinds of calls, whatever. Hey, what is this kind of maltreatment? Was he not getting the right treatment? And I go, let me tell you, I would always tell these people, look, it doesn't get any better medically. I mean, this has been my experience. I think a lot of big times, Power 5 especially, schools are like this, not just y'all. It doesn't get better from a medical standpoint and a training standpoint of people watching over you, looking for your well-being, than it does at a place like Ohio State, where they're always focused on getting you on the field, but they're focused on getting you on the field in the best health possible, et cetera. And
they wake up. It's 100% of their time, and probably more so. Depends on what There's 8-hour days, and people say, well, that's a half a day.
Yeah.
But they wake up every day. The athletic training staff wakes up every day thinking about, what are we doing today on this guy? What are we doing with rehab? What are we planning for this? We got to get ready for a game. We got to order a bunch of ice. It's just is always encompassing.
Yeah.
That they think about that, and we have the resources here at Ohio State to be able to have those people here. A lot of places don't, but high schools don't, and so some do. They have one or two, but we're a good staff.
Yeah.
And we have the resources to do it, and for them to think about every possible scenario and everything that goes into the health and safety of those athletes on the field. We have two physicians' office right here, right behind you, and there's a state registered pharmacy in there.
Yeah.
So they see a doc and they get some whatever they need, and we're gonna see them the next day. We're gonna see them that afternoon. We're gonna see them the next morning. I mean, it just goes on, and that is it is pretty impressive. And you're right. If you're going to have a problem, if something's going to happen, you're probably in a good place to have it. Is like you said, I think we talked about this before.
Yeah.
Having to be on the field.
You're stealing my thunder here, because that's exactly what I wanted to ask you. Now, stealing my thunder, you're stealing my question. I mean, Damar Hamlin, we all saw him go down in that Cincinnati Bengals Buffalo Bills game a couple of weeks ago, and I was on a radio show later that week, and I was just going, well, you know what? If something like that is going to happen to a person, there is no better place for him to be than in the middle of a National Football League stadium, with everybody that came out. They're doing CPR on him. They're doing, what's it called? AED.
Yeah.
They're doing AED. They ended up using an AED machine, et cetera, because his heart had stopped. I mean, or was out of control one way or the other. Bottom line is he was in cardiac arrest. And I think about Adam Tolliver, the kid from Penn State who got hurt here in Ohio Stadium way back when.
Oh, yeah.
And
well,
so,
it's funny you brought that up, because he went down. It was '96, I believe. We played them at home.
yeah,
And it's funny, he's a lawyer now. I see him almost every time we go to Penn State, and he comes over and says, hey, how you doing? I to this day, he's so appreciative of Adam Taliaferro,
yeah,
who had that neck injury on our field, and their training staff, we assisted them, backboarded them, got them over to which is about a 9-iron from the stadium, is our Wexner Medical
isn't
Center.
that crazy? I mean, we're talking about
right
a minute.
there.
Yeah.
They were ready. And back then, if you got this bolus of medication and CT and all that stuff within a 4-hour period, he had it in 50 minutes. He saw a neuro specialist. He's had the CT scan, and he had that within 50 minutes. And their medical staff wrote us a really nice note that said pretty much, much appreciation for helping Adam, and the nursing staff did a great job continuing to take care of him when he was here. But if that would have happened at their place, they would have had to have life flighted him to like Hershey or somewhere, because they don't have a level 1 trauma center that we do right next door to our stadium. And so, it is location.
Wexner OSU Medical Center. Yeah.
Right, OSU. I mean, we're right there, and they don't have that kind of resource at Penn State. They have to go farther. So we're very fortunate to have the resources we have here, and it's just phenomenal. And so, and you're right, having something happen, you do have a lot. Now, having it in the hospital where you have all the other
Well, I'm
equipment,
talking about,
that'd be great.
Yeah.
But we're next.
I think I'm going to have a heart attack. I'm going to go over here and sit around.
Right.
But then again, you can be in an emergency room and you might be in a
Right.
corner and they might not
Exactly.
see you. You know what I mean? You know how that works. You do get priority when you roll in. When you're
Yeah.
rolling in from an Ohio State football game, you get priority, I would
Yeah.
think.
Well, this is because we have one of the docs probably with
Yeah.
them, and they just kind of
Yeah.
open the doors.
And of course, we're laughing, but we made it. But, but one other question before we go. But that always begs me, like we saw DeMar Hamlin go off in the ambulance from the field, but that means you have to have an ambulance on standby, but you also have to have another ambulance on standby, don't
Right,
you?
right.
But to fill the gap, I mean, because
Well, you have 100,000+ all in one place.
Yeah.
You better have some resources.
Yeah.
And our event group here on campus, they do the same thing. They're just planning through all of their piece as well. So we have a dedicated EMS, squad right there in the corner of the end zone, ready to go, and they're dedicated to the field.
Yeah.
And so now, as soon as they get engaged, they make a call, and then they bring down. And I think we might have two more. I'm going to be wrong
Yeah.
on this, but we have others that are dedicated to the fans in the stands.
Yeah.
Let alone all the first aiders inside and all the other medical people inside. But from a transport perspective, we have enough. So they come down and then they get replaced in case
Yeah.
lightning strikes
Apocalypse.
twice.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
And we did have lightning strike 4 times, I think, at the Rose Bowl. Remember that? I don't know if you
Really?
remember that. We had,
you weren't here.
holy
Yeah, you weren't here in '89 when USC was playing in Ohio
No.
Stadium, or 90,
Right.
I think it was, and lightning actually hit the over at the.
oh my, yes.
You talk about
I remember hearing about
you
that.
talk about concussion protocols have changed.
Yeah.
Lightning protocols have changed dramatically. Well, it hadn't hit the stadium yet.
Yeah.
we're
still got some
okay.
time.
Yeah. But it hit the what's it called now? The student activity center over there. You know?
Yeah.
And hey, real quick before we go, I know I said, but that's my calling card. You know that. You've known me for a while now. What is from like that meeting you said you guys had last night as we recorded this about scenarios you went through the year and stuff? What is one of the things you learned or y'all will improve compared to a year ago? You understand what I'm saying? I mean,
Right.
What is something y'all touched on that is it? I mean, you have so many people involved.
Well, I think the amount of, so honestly, we talk through this. I don't really have a perfect answer, but a lot of times if we have an injury with a player, we'll have the evaluation, and they'll come into the doctor's office and, hey, let's get an x-ray, let's get an MRI. We go ahead and do that. We come back and we follow them just like any other hospital or any other doctor. However, at some point, mom and dad come in, and so I think we're asking the player, who else do you want in this room? Who else do we need to include in these discussions about, your treatment plan? What do you have? Here's what you have. Obviously, there's a position coach. The head coach is going to find out, eventually, but maybe they're coming in. Depends on the situation. But we need to talk to the player and say, okay, who else do you want in here? Maybe it's, their
Your representative.
And
Now the name, image, and likeness
everybody has an
realm.
uncle somewhere.
Yeah.
So we really just always concentrated on the athlete and their parents. But that room's getting bigger.
Yeah.
And so that we talked through that a little bit about having that conversation with the player and about how much who do you want to include in these
Yeah.
in these.
But that brings an interesting point, because you're not only, you guys, you and Sean Barnhouse, Adam Stewart, all these guys that are involved. You're not just working with a regular, an average person sitting there, working with them medically, physically, etc., training wise. These are guys that have value because they were recruited to Ohio State. A lot of money was spent to get them to Ohio State. Mm-hmm. Now you got name, image, and likeness thrown out there with like values on some of these players, etc. But
Right.
you also understand every guy you work on in this training room behind me, they have aspirations to play in the National Football League, which makes them, in their mind, et cetera, to have more intrinsic value. In fact,
Right.
I'm using intrinsic correctly there,
Right.
which I'll look it up after we're done here.
Yeah.
But it's in the video now. But you're working with valuable
Right.
people, right? I mean, And not
Right.
and not every person. Don't get fired up, ladies and gentlemen. I don't mean every person is not valuable, but these people have actually value you can put to their name, etc. So
Yeah.
I don't know, how does it change even the acuity of what y'all are doing? I would think it doesn't at all. Y'all have always been.
Yeah, and we've always been, I don't know, I guess I'll say transparent in who you want to include in these discussions.
Yeah.
Hey, here's what your shoulder, you've had this injury or whatever that situation, that medical situation is. What is our plan? What do we recommend? How are we going to get you back on the field effectively, safely, and how do we do that? And we have those discussions with, and that's the question we have to have, involve them.
Yeah.
The NIL situation, I don't know that it really focuses much differently on us, particularly because we're still going to take care of that player the same way we always have. I don't know that we can do it any different. We've always understood that athletes come here for a reason, and it's not easy. It's uncomfortable sometimes in the training and the hard, and what makes it hard is the reward aspect of, hey, I've made it through this, and I've seen a lot of players come and go through here, and they look back on all the growth. It's like being a teacher, I'd imagine, having them come back. We had John Simon here just earlier today, just coming in and lifting, and he, those guys, that's cool stuff. So, but that's a testament of the fact that we took care of those guys, and they had a good experience. Yeah, they've had some injuries, but as long as we're taking care of them and we're on their side as an individual and as a potential dad, that's what drives us. At least that's our philosophy, to keep it going. So, full bucks.